Location, location, location. We hear it all the time as the delineating factor to the value of a real estate investment. But what happens if we have a house built by a builder who doesn't really consider building science, and they build a house in a location like this? Well, let's figure it out. So today we're being welcomed by Bella Babo, the homeowner of this house, in what can only be called an amazing, extraordinarily beautiful location. And Bella, we'd love to know a little bit more about living in this home.
Absolutely. We bought the home in 2019. This is a spec house, and we knew that going into it, but we fell in love with the property. So we have the beautiful state park behind us. We fell in love with the gardens. I'm a gardener, so I was immediately drawn to that. I'd like to take you to the backyard where all the fun and adventure started over the winter, and let's get started back there. So this is the reason that we actually bought the home. What we didn't realize was it actually came with a waterfall. So in the last 13 atmospheric rivers that we experienced over winter, we actually had water that started back here and literally was rushing down these steps. And because we lacked drainage here in any of our patios, the water actually came this direction and went straight towards our kitchen door. I'm going to say the storm in January, the water was probably about 1/8 of an inch from entering into our kitchen and flooding our wood floors.
So I see a lot of hardscaping here, and hardscaping is beautiful and super durable, but it doesn't allow the natural drainage of the land to take away the water. Do you have the drains underneath the mats, or?
We do not, Dave. There was no drains put anywhere on this property, not at the top and certainly not anywhere here.
So there was really no foreplanning having to do with water ingress into this area and how to get rid of it?
Absolutely not. I think that they liked the beauty and the continuity of it, possibly didn't want to put a slope in that the drains require. They wanted to have it fairly flat, but what we have found is that water accumulates across this entire patio. And what it takes is me taking a whisk broom and pushing the water towards the dirt areas to keep it out of the house.
So were there any other parts of your house that did get flooded?
Yes. Actually, our garage flooded every single time, and it actually covered probably about 1/2 inch of the garage. It was a great incentive to clean the garage, but not necessarily something you want to do in a rainstorm.
And not when everything's soaking wet.
Exactly.
Wow. So really, what could have been additional cost, which would have been a definite additional cost for all of this hardscaping, could have saved all of that kind of challenge associated with this beautiful area right back here.
Absolutely. I mean, it did damage some of our furniture and chairs. It damaged some of the rugs we had to replace. So, as they were planning this patio and they were planning the walkway out to the forest, it would have been very easy to put in drainage.
Oh, that's unfortunate. So does the adventure end here, or does it continue on inside?
The adventure continues inside.
Right. Well, let's go check it out. So Bella, we're inside your kitchen, and it looks actually a beautiful kitchen. So tell me what your experience is in here.
So we bought the home and actually loved the size of the kitchen. We are avid cooks and avid entertainers, and so we wanted a kitchen that could not only hold 2 cooks, but all the guests, because they'd like to hang out with us. What we found over the last couple years is that this granite, which is called absolute granite, is one of the lower grades of granite, and it's not very durable. And we have a few issues with it. One is that it chips. Being cooks, as we talked about, means that we have to do dishes, and each time that we do dishes after a dinner party, we hit the pot against it and it cracks or it chips. It's very difficult to fix those, and so it's starting to wear down and it looks unsightly. Secondly, because the seal is starting to break down, we notice that it constantly looks dirty. And it's just not attractive. It makes me feel like I'm living in a house that's never been cleaned. And the shine is starting to break from the granite, kind of leaving it with a dull appearance.
So really the challenges with this kitchen are that the material is not really meeting your expectations, and it's causing you to have to do a lot of extra work that you wouldn't have had to do otherwise. And I'm sure you've lived in lots of other houses with kitchens that didn't have this material, and now you're making a comparison. And so kind of the speculative home idea of buying the cheapest materials so that you can sell the house at the greatest cost or the greatest price so that you get more profit means that you end up with a project that just doesn't wear and doesn't perform like you want.
Absolutely.
So what would be an option that you would think would be a great choice in here? And what's your experience with that material?
So I've used a few other types of materials. I tend to stay away from the granites. I never have marble in a kitchen because it's too soft. I've recently found porcelain. Porcelain is very durable. It never has to be sealed. It's very easy to clean. It's very sustainable. So porcelain is one of my favorites. The manufactured, the engineer stone, like Cambria, Cambria Britannica, silestone. There's a lot of other choices out there that don't require the sealing. So if you don't have to seal it, it doesn't break down, and you have a nice appearance in the home for years and years.
Okay. So is this the kind of last challenge that you've had in this house?
No.
So should we go check that out?
Absolutely.
All right. So Bella, I noticed you have a fireplace here, and from our discussions, you actually have 5 fireplaces in this house.
We do indeed.
Yes, so we're going to talk a little bit about fireplaces in houses, but tell us a little bit about this specific fireplace.
We purchased the home. This was my least favorite component.
Of the 5 fireplaces?
Of the 5
Okay,
fireplaces.
got it.
True confession, I love fireplaces. This one, however, what we found the first winter that we were here is we would turn it on, we'd have the beautiful ambiance and hoping to not turn on the main heater, but just simply warm this room. And we realized that the indoor temperature in the living room actually lowered when the fireplace was on.
It's a good fireplace.
So while you sat next to it, it was very, very warm, but you had a chance of burning your hand or burning anything if you leaned against it because it becomes actually very hot. But if you can look here, there's actually holes, or not holes, gaps, thank you,
Okay.
that allows the air to penetrate and then go up the flue.
So the hot of the fireplace was making air rise, which
Yes.
hot air does, and it was sucking air from the rest of the house through these gaps, and it was taking all of the conditioned air from inside the house and blowing it outside the house.
Yes, we could actually feel the draft. There were actually times when if you were standing here, you felt a draft, and we thought a window was open, that there was something else going on, and finally we said, it's the fireplace.
So maybe this is actually an air conditioner.
Clearly it is.
Okay. So one of the big things with fireplaces in having one in a typical house is enough. Having 5 is actually a real challenge. Is that fireplaces require vents because they are burning material, and we know that when we burn material, gas, we're actually producing a lot of byproducts of combustion, and one of those byproducts is carbon monoxide. It's very bad to have in a house. It's actually toxic and can be lethal if it builds up. And so we vent these fireplaces to the outside. But those vents always stay open. So they're always making a hole in the outside of the house. And you can't block them, because if you block them, you could potentially start a fire if you actually put a fire here and it wasn't able to vent. And so this house basically has 5 big holes in it that you can never block off. And it's constantly letting air in the house in the summertime and in the wintertime when it's either hot or cold outside. And it's letting warm conditioned air outside the house, and it gets worse when we have fireplaces. And so we're actually going against what we've talked about in previous videos about trying to air seal a house to make it more energy efficient and more comfortable. So while people love fireplaces for the ambiance, they've actually become detrimental to indoor comfort. Now, there are options to fireplaces that don't have venting, and those fireplaces are what are called denatured alcohol fireplaces. And you can actually use an alcohol, so an ethanol-based material, it's actually ethanol, with some additives that make it so that you can't drink it. If you drink it, you'll get sick. And so you can use that as a fuel source, and you can pour them into these little stainless steel trays, and they can be bigger than this, and they can be absolutely beautiful. But one of the benefits is they don't have vents, because when you burn alcohol, all you produce is water vapor and carbon dioxide. And that's not toxic to the indoor air quality. And so you get the ambiance of the fireplaces without having all the detrimental effects of burning fuel, burning gas in your house, of having to vent your house, and then having big holes in your house. And obviously, A denatured alcohol fireplace is a very difficult fireplace to start a fire anywhere else in the house, but gas fireplaces are actually routinely cause fires because creosote, the byproducts of fire, actually build up in the flues and then they become a fuel source for fires later on. And so what we're really talking about in this project, and honestly, like while this is a spec home, meaning a speculative home, so it's built by a builder who cares about selling that house for a profit. And so they're really trying to save money when they build it so that they can maximize the difference between the cost of the house and the sale price of the house, because that's their profit. That's their incentive. And so a lot of houses, whether they're spec houses or not, have these issues built into them. And really Bella was kind enough to let us into her house and point out all the flaws of her house. But really, you bought the location.
We did.
Right? It wasn't the house that really drew you in here. It was that amazing forest outside.
Absolutely.
Right? And so really Bella is making light of the fact that we have all these issues, but it goes to the fact that a lot of houses have these issues, whether they're spec houses or not. And if you're interested in learning more about building science or following other projects like this and maybe taking another tour of Bella's house, please hit subscribe as we help you build a better way.